Alright, so, hi. Been a fucking minute, huh? Been 3 months, actually, since I last uploaded part 4. And don't worry, I haven't forgotten about this. Well, obviously I haven't forgotten about this, you're seeing this, but whatever. Uh, I just, a lot of personal shit's been going on. Also, well, I'm not really gonna go into details. As normal, if you want to just skip past my rambling, uh, I leave a time code in the description. But yeah, I'm back. I'm back doing this because I've been really wanting to do this, but I've been kind of, personal stuff's been going on, and kind of just not been in the right place, I guess. I know that's probably not a great excuse, but it made it a bit difficult for me to keep doing this. Not that I didn't want to. I've really wanted to do this. It's just, fucking depression. Uh, but it's fine. Don't worry about that shit. I'm fucking, well, this is me rambling. I do that every time, so whatever. Uh, and, besides that, uh, really fucking doing a good job talking, huh? Besides that, I guess I want to just give a quick warning. Uh, my voices might be a little shittier, which kinda makes me upset, but I'm not completely sure. But allergies are a bitch, and I have them, and they're pretty bad today. But I wanted to do this today, like really bad. So, uh, fuck it, I'm doing it today. Hopefully, any background noise from like the neighborhood is bearable. I know I don't like it, but like I can't I can't go over to the neighbor's house and say, "Hey, your dog needs to shut the fuck up. I'm making an edgy story. Don't you understand?" I can't do that. But and yeah, like usual, this is edgy. This is I'm very much an amateur writer, if I can even be considered that, and I'm very much an amateur voice actor, again, if I can even be considered that. They're just two things I really like, and I want to get better at. And I don't really mind that it's a bit edgy. But, yeah, let's hope that I haven't lost my touch for these two, huh? So, have you made a decision? He says, after being quiet through that whole experience. Yeah, I have, I say after a few quiet seconds. Great, great. I have a place in mind where we can start a little adventure, Phobia finally says, having returned to me. I'm not ready to leave yet. That bastard may have been the worst one, but everyone else here abandoned me too, I say, still high off the adrenaline of the last kill. Phobia pauses for a moment before replying. Well, that's up to you. I surely won't stop you, but it'd take a while, Phobia says in a nonchalant tone. What are you talking about? No, it wouldn't, I say, before extending my clawed hand towards the sky in the middle of the village. And as I do, a small sphere, letting out a low, ominous hum, appears in the sky for a moment. It simply stays in place, but after a few seconds, it seems to close in on itself, before quickly expanding over the entire village. It seems Phobia was mostly right when he said everyone was asleep. There was almost no commotion, though not long after, the ominous hum began to get significantly louder, till it was all I could hear. The village began to darken, as it became difficult to see even a few feet in front of me. It seemed to stay that way for a few minutes as I stood there simply waiting, already knowing what it was going to do. Suddenly, The low hum was overpowered by a choir of ear-piercing screams from each of the houses. Honestly, it made me flinch a little when I heard it, but it wasn't long before it died down, and with it, so did the darkness, only having about a minute between the screams to when the sphere closed back in on itself, this time for good. Satisfied, I began to leave the town, peering into some of the houses on the way, only seeing withered corpses with thin flesh barely covering the skeletons. Phobia seemed to have no comment on the matter. Looking back on it, he most likely either didn't expect me to be able to use his power that well right off the bat, or didn't even know how to do what I did. Though it's odd to think of someone who claims to be a personification of my emotions having more experience with magic than me. Though that's not important right now. As I walked out of the village, I asked Phobia what place he planned for us to go next. Okay, remember that city I mentioned a bit ago while we were traveling here? Phobia answers, mm-hmm, Iversky, right? I say in response, when he told me about it, he said it was a beautiful city that had the misfortune of having a fairly corrupt royalty. Why not start there? It's a big city. It should help you get more accustomed to the world, and if you manage to take it down, well, let's just say it would be the start of a downward spiral for the world. Phobia says, in an attempt to convince me, it's not like I have any places in mind, so I guess it's fine. I agree, having calmed down a little from the previous events, yet still somewhat enraged. Great, this could be some fun sightseeing. This could be some fun sightseeing for you too. Might as well enjoy the beauty of the world before it falls to dust, right? He says, seeming oddly excited. I guess that's fine, but it seems kinda pointless. And how far is it? I ask, being a bit worried for another long trip. Shouldn't be longer than a week if we walk. Phobia tells me, not seeming to care how unaccustomed to walking I am. I have no clue where to go, and only have Phobia's guidance. Oh, sorry. I want to complain or argue, but at the end of the day, I have no clue where to go, and only have Phobia as guidance. So instead, I simply sigh and resign myself to a long trip. No objections? Perfect. I'll tell you all you need to know on the way there. Sound good? Yes, not really caring what my answer is. Either way, I nod and prepare myself both mentally and physically for the long trip and lecture I'm about to be faced with. Though the trip was long, it was fairly uneventful. The only things of interest to really happen was me being questioned by a few other travelers about my appearance and if I needed help. I guess seeing a boy seemingly wandering alone with fairly basic clothes and no shoes might be a bit concerning to people. By that point, I had lost the high of what happened at Dryan and started questioning my actions once again. Though I often stopped myself, knowing that nothing would come of it. I tried to convince myself that the travelers were simply being nice because they had some ulterior motive, but I know that's fairly unlikely. Still, it brought up a good point that me and Phobia had to consider on the way to Iversky. I didn't really want to say anything at first, but your outfit is a bit too, how do I put this, noticeable. If we're going to be heading to Iversky for less than noble reasons, keeping a low profile would be a good option. And walking around barefoot in a plain shirt and sweatpants isn't really gonna help that. Phobia informs me Though even if I was captured for most of my life, I knew the way I dressed in the tower was fairly casual, based on the books I read. I made sure to keep that in mind as a pretty high priority once we got to our destination. Besides that, we mainly just talked about Iversky, as well as a few more things on how the world works. There was one extra problem we thought of. I know you don't know your name and all, but we'll need an alias or something for you. A person checking into an inn saying they have no name is sure to raise a few eyebrows. Phobia says, calling attention to a fairly important problem. That's a fair point, I guess, I say, not really knowing what to offer up to the discussion. Why not just go by puppeteer or puppets? It sounds nice enough, right? Phobia asks, trying to offer up a solution. I'm not going by that. I prefer not to go by what the guards at the tower called me, I say a bit curtly. Eesh, touchy subject, I got it. Phobia replies, I can almost see him rolling his eyes as the words fill my mind. Why don't I just go by Phobia? I ask, looking for a simple solution. Well, I guess that works. Might not have a few decades ago, but you should be fine now with a name like that. Not that he responds, not seeming to care that I chose to use his name. Not that he really has any right to, since he's always going on about how we're one and the same. Though I'm getting sidetracked. Days passed, and as they did, we grew ever closer to Iversky, until inevitably it was in our view, just a few hours away. Though before we kept moving, I stopped to take in the sight of the impressive city. It was surrounded by... Sorry, my dog's rolling around on my bed. I stopped to take in the sight of the impressive city. It was surrounded by a strangely ornate white wall with splashes of gold coloring on it. The only way to get in the walls were 4 separate entrances that seemed heavily guarded. Though, according to Phobia... Hold on. Right back, sorry. Okay, maybe I'm not back. He started playing as soon as I unpaused. Okay, we're good now? Again, sorry, I have to keep an eye on him right now. Okay. Until inevitably it was in our view, and just a few hours away. Though before we kept moving, I stopped to take in the sight of the impressive city. It was surrounded by a strangely ornate white wall with splashes of gold coloring on it. The only way to get in through the walls were 4 separate entrances that seemed heavily guarded. Though, according to Phobia, walking straight in shouldn't be a problem. Within the walls is much of the same coloration of white and gold, with some odd specks of color in between. Despite the easy-to-tarnish color chosen for the city, it almost seems to sparkle with how clean it is. Visually, at least. Though the most noticeable thing is the absolutely giant castle formed in the very center of the city. Several towers line the outside of it, while a large golden spire extends from the very top of it. There even seems to be a rather large terrace area. Well, there's our target. So, what do you think? Phobia inquires. It's beautiful. Honestly, it makes it a bit hard to want to destroy this beauty. I tell him honestly. Perhaps, but it's all superficial, simply meant to hide the less pretty reality of the city. Phobia reminds me. During the trip here, he informed me of how Iversky is divided. Near the top inner ring of within the walls, close to the castle, is where the noble district, as he called it, is. That's where the wealthy reside, and it generally has more luxury stores and services. The outer ring is what he called the commerce district, where most of the general housing and stores are. Then there's outside the wall, which is what Phobia referred to as the slums, where the royalty has all but given up on trying to keep things in order, instead leaving it to various gangs that run the area. Needless to say, a lot of the sorry, my cursor was on the screen, that's probably annoying. Needless to say, a lot of the less savory and more shady things happen there. Thankfully, I'll be avoiding it if all goes well. Phobia also said that the royal family stays so complacent because they earn a small portion of the profits from the gangs. So, sure, that's a fair enough reason for me to want to destroy the royal family, but I still have no reason to destroy the city itself besides spite. Even so, I've come this far, and I'm not sure what I'd even do if I backed out now. At least now I have some purpose, even if it's not a good one. Right. This is the most sensible option I have available to me. Hey, if you're done admiring the view, we should get moving. We should be able to get there by noon, and then you can scout out the place, and get some new clothes, and rest for the day. Not that you really need it anymore. I nod, and get ready for the last push before finally arriving. Okay, so, yeah, that's what I added. I know it's a little less intense than last one, but, I mean, I couldn't really... It's not like I really had much more options to keep up the intensity with that, so... Yeah, this is more of a world-building part, along with just a transitional part, which, probably isn't the most exciting one to return to, but it's 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 necessary, I guess. But yeah. Hopefully my voice for our protagonist, well, he's probably not the protagonist, but our main character and Phobia are still decent. Uh, but yeah, besides that, I think we're good. I can't really think of anything else to add, but yeah, alright. Uh, Thank you for watching, I guess. Fucking, I don't intro. Bye.